Alright fellas, here we are back in Pokemon Masters, and so tomorrow we're going to be getting a rerun of 3 different Pokefair Scouts, all are triple featured, and it's like that banner that they released, how long ago was that? Like 5-6 months ago maybe? Of course when they gave us a bunch of different, EX rolls, right? This is similar to that. The first banner we're going to be going over is the one with Jacq, Sygna Suit Silver, and Sygna Suit Leon. In terms of this banner's value, I mean, I think it's a pretty good banner, honestly. Especially if you are a Gauntlet player, I think this is pretty good. Jacq he's a 14, he can solo 14 Legendary Arenas. Silver can solo, I've got the document pulled up. I'm pretty sure he can solo, like, 12, 13? 13, yeah, he's got 13 solos. And Leon, I think, is less, but, I mean, still decent amount. That's Leon. 4, right? And I'm sure the support extra is going to help him out for probably get a few more of those. But anyway, whatever. So these characters all have the support EX roll. That's why they're all on this banner. I believe this is the upgrade for Leon. Yeah, Leon. This is Leon's upgrade to getting his EX roll, support EX. So that is nice. Not a bad banner, I guess, for Gauntlet players, especially related with these two. 1.5% rates each, 4.5% rates total. Not bad. I guess we'll go ahead and look at the characters. So first off, we'll start out with Jacq. In my opinion, the best character on the banner. Silver's in contention, but I think Jacc's better. Jacq is a pretty gimmick-focused character with max investment, pretty much, level 150, 6-star EX, support EX roll. He's got 532 special attack, which is really, really good, 902 health, 260 defenses, and 368 speed. Of course, his defenses and HP being as good as they are, and speed stat is a good contributing factor to why he's so good in the Gauntlet. Also, his offensive stat anywhere is going to be really good. He's got Twin Beam, which is a 2-gauge, 27 power move that hits 2 times in a row. It's a 50 sun base power, right? Not a great move, but it does have effects that makes it relatively helpful. He's got Lumberry, which is three uses, remove status from an ally. Not really, it's a berry. This is not really too much worth considering. I guess maybe for like Moltres, right? Could be helpful, but other than that, not really. But he does have experimental stored power, his buddy move. This is a really strong buddy move. It's 2-gauge. It's activated whenever the user has a stat raise of 10 or more. It's deactivated when the stat raises are of 9 or less. It never misses. It's guaranteed to become a critical hit. The more his stats are raised, the greater the power of the attack, and removes all status increases. This is not affected by abilities like haste or whatever, so he will lose all stat buffs, even if he does have stat debuff immunity of some kind. So keep that in mind. But this is a pretty nuclear weapon of a buddy move, right? Like it's got its own innate of what's it called? Power loving. There we go. No, that's debuffs. Good form. There we go. Good form. He's got like innate good form pretty much on this buddy move, which makes it really strong. It is a extremely strong buddy move to finish a lot of battles. And that's where you would mostly utilize his buddy move, like outside of a lot of Legendary Arena content, like that I've watched, likes to utilize Twin Beam a lot because it's got flinches and it's also a faster to use move, and you don't lose all your stat buffs by using it. But if you want to like go full nuclear weapon, then Store Power is the way to go here, because he does have good abilities to buff his stats, and we'll look at those in a bit. He's got a Trainer move which raises his stat increases, doubles his stat increases, and applies gradual healing, and applies super effective next. One problem is he does not have Trainer Move NPR, but he does have Trainer Sync Redemption. So if you do want to get some extra uses of this, you can pick up that. Just want to make that be known. He does also have Innate Rising Tide as his Sync Multiplier, of course. So he's got good form, Rising Tide. He's working off of stat increases. And when it comes to getting those stat increases, he has Jacc's Lesson, which reduces MP by 1 for the user's moves with the Berry effect tag, and raises special attack and special defense by 2 when the attack move is successful. So he will use a Berry to buff his special attack and special defense by 2 when using any attack move. And then he has Stored Power and Twin Beam as well. So very nice. And then Sync Move, restore Berry MP3, restoring MP of his Berry moves after using the Sync Move by 3. This is infinitely repeatable. It's not a first time only thing. So you've got pretty much infinite Berry restoration as long as you use Jacc's Sync Move. Okay. He's also got Strike stat up to 9, whatever, sure. Raises following stats by 2 at random. When the attack move hits, it's all stats besides crit. And if the move has the multi-strike effect tag, it does the same thing. It does it again. So he gets 4 random stat buffs when using Twin Beam, and he's also getting the special attack and special defense when using his moves whenever he's got the Lumberry, right? So that's a lot of stat buffs. That is effectively what yeah, it's effectively +6 stats. No, I need to +2, that's 4, that's +8 stats, right? That's effectively +8 to his stats just for fun. That's just by using Twin Beam once. That's not bad at all, especially when you want to consider how much it takes to actually activate the buddy move and how much it actually takes to activate Rising Tide all the way. That's not bad for sure. So he's got good stat buffs. A lot of the utility for like Legendary Arenas comes from the fact that he's got Gradual Healing on a trainer move, good defensive stats from the EX roll, or just good, honestly not bad defensive stats in general, right? Like, these aren't too bad. The ability to double his stat increases, which means you can fish pretty easily for buffs like Evasion, get those stats, and then double those buffs. So he's got dodge utility. He's also got defense buffs, same with, again, defense and special defense, special attack buffs for damage, accuracy buffs, land attacks against enemies with like Evasion, like Latios and whatnot. That is where a lot of his utility comes from there. He's got, again, dodge plus a little bit of healing, and it's pretty consistent too, on top of having very high offensive stats and damage, right, with the nuke, and potentially good damage if you want to ever have to utilize the buddy move. You can do that, right? So that's not bad, but of course a lot of the other good stuff comes with dupes too, so yeah. Jacq alone, like, in base, he can do a good nuke, but that's about, like, kind of where it ends. I wouldn't say he's great outside of that. I mean, nuclear buddy move, that's most, like, buddy move nuke. His regular Sync nuke's not that great, right? Like, Rising Tide's good, right? But it's not crazy just by itself, not anymore. So let's just keep all that in mind. And the stat buffs are nice, but not super insane. He does, of course, get more stuff that make him look a lot better with dupes, right? We'll just go to like 3 out of 5 investment. He gets Unfortunate Strike for random debuffs. So on top of his random buffs, he's got random debuffs now. That's good. Can debuff accuracy, can debuff offensive stats. This just makes him bulkier, makes him able to take attacks more, all of that good stuff. That's really nice. He's got Rising Tide. Another note of it, this is what makes his nuke look really good on top of both sync notes here. 532 special attack, 2 instances of Rising Tide. He's got an extremely strong sync nuke. Very, very good. I feel like if we were to go for a comparison, it would be compared to like pre-EX roll Lear, I would say, in terms of the buff. Like, Lear's got N8 Rising Tide, and then he's got another Rising Tide here. So, and also he's got a ton of sync nodes. So actually, Lear's got just a better sync nuke in general. But if we want to compare a character like Jacq, who's more focused on utility and less of damage, then you can see that's still pretty good for him. Anyway, so definitely not a bad nuke. He's also got, again, Trainer Sync Redemption. This gets you more instances of using the trainer move for that gradual healing or double stat increases. He's also got Vigilance for crit protection, ability to run a different lucky skill. If you do need crit protection or something, you can run Vigilance, again, as a passive skill or grid skill, whatever, instead of a lucky skill. That does help. He's also got Stacking Strike, being able to buff his crit. This is the one thing he could not do before, but the ability to buff his crit now is very helpful because, of course, crit just increases your damage a ton. So being self-sufficient in that manner, again, for like Legendary Arena Souls is good. Outside of that, of course, not that great because you can just bring a crit support, which is entirely fair. And then other things like Twin Beam Strike Flinch 1. This is one of his biggest This is one of his biggest nodes to help out with solos is flinching, because even if you just land one flinch, that gives you a lot of time to be able to heal up off of gradual healing and be able to potentially go back to dodging attacks or taking attacks a lot better, getting random debuffs, random stat buffs, all of that stuff, right? So he can buff his, again, he buffs his stats a ton, and he can debuff stats, and he can flinch to make sure he can heal up, and also, again, get more buffs and debuffs. That's where this flinching really becomes handy. Sync Damage Guard, also pretty solid. I mean, if you know you're about to take a pretty high-powered attack, it can be good there. And that's mostly it for what I can tell. He does have other things like Adrenaline 1 for some sync acceleration, or Twin Beams to do effective 9 if you want to do some on-type damage. Maybe good against Terrakion. Obviously, it's going to be good against like any stadium stage or whatever, but I don't really see too much usage outside of that. Maybe the new Ultimate Battle versus Nemona, right, from the Battle Rally that's, you know, going to probably come into a regular stage next month. That could be a similar case where maybe this could do some decent damage. But other than that, I think Jacque's biggest thing is that he is a Legendary Gauntlet-oriented character. He can work outside of that, right? Like, he's got Rising Tide, which is a great nuke. He's, again, a great nuke. He's got the Support EX roll to restore his Berry MP, so if you do need to get that stuff back, you can do that and not have to sacrifice using his Sync nuke. Because, again, he's got a good Sync nuke, and on top of it, he's got Support EX, so it's pretty much invaluable to go for. And then again, he's got that very, very, very strong buddy move when its buffs are near maxed out, right? Like I don't know what the ultimate point is to get the buff set to before it becomes just a roll of the dice to get the right buffs to max it out even further. But like, 15, 20 buffs or something like that, it's going to be hitting really hard. It's going to be very, very strong. So just consider that when using this move. It's an extremely strong move, right? So, but again, you do remove all your stat increases, so you got to also play around that. And again, a mode like the Legendary Arena, you've got random buffs for like evasion and defenses, random debuffs for accuracy and offenses, and flinches as well to help out with healing and maintaining those debuffs and stat buffs. So very, very strong character. Outside of that, or outside of the 3 out of 5 tiles, he does get special defense drops here, guaranteed. So if you are trying to just enhance his damage and team damage as much as possible, special defense drops are really good for that. He's also got Brain Gain 9, which I don't think is really too worth considering because you're going to be using Twin Beam a lot. He's also got +1 on all 7 stats after using his Sync move. Could be good if you are getting unlucky with certain buffs and you do want to try and increase those a little bit. But for the most part, I feel just relying upon the random buffs from Strike stat here are better. And Soften Up 1 for guaranteed crits, not too crazy in my opinion. So I mean, you can probably get the most usage out of his tiles from Strike, Special Defense down. But other than that, 3 out of 5 is a very, very good sweet spot, of course, for him. So, anyway, moving on, I guess we'll go ahead and look at Sygna Suit Leon. Sygna Suit Leon's a striker character. He's already gotten his fair tiles. He's fine for the most part. It sucks to say, but he does really compete a lot with, like, now Cynthia with her upgrade, Sygna Suit Cynthia with her upgrade, and of course other just better dragon-type characters. The support X roll helps him. I mean, it helps out with his bulk a little bit, though I really only think that it's super helpful or going to be super impactful in the Legendary Gauntlet. Simply because this doesn't really change his playstyle otherwise. Like, you're going to use a sync move once, get an okay striker sync nuke in, and that's mostly it, right? That's all you're going to get for, like, modes outside of that. But the Sporty X with the stat buffs does help out a lot more in the Gauntlet, so that helps out with sustainability. Other than that, though, where you're mostly going to be utilizing Leon, like, whatever content you utilize him outside of the arena, I think he's just not really better than a lot of other options, or at least he's not far better than other options you probably already have. So that's just what I'm believing right now, just thinking about it, especially in a month that's coming off of releasing Arc Suit Lance, a character that Leon benefits from, but also could just be directly replaced by, right? Anyway, whatever. He does gain the Support X role, so the Support X is nice. Just, it doesn't really help him too much outside of the arenas. It just gives him that sync buff, the extra sync buff, which is good, but still, just there's other characters that can utilize the same buff better. Anyway, whatever. Looking at the stats, he's got 386 special attack, 897 health, 212 speed. I will do this. So 218 special defensive stats, 450 speed. I know I said speed here, oops. But 450 speed. He's got good speed. He's got pretty good special attack. His defenses are still a little bit lackluster, even with the EX roll investment, but they're not like terrible. And the HP is good. He's the first character to introduce max moves with Eterna Beam, which charges gauge by 3 for each allied pair on the field, and 440 power here, so it is pretty good in the power department too. He's got Dynamax Cannon as his damaging option, a 4-gauge move, 158 power, which is increased by 50% when the enemy has a sync buff. Of course, now with game modes like Ultimate Battles and, again, Legendary Arenas and whatnot, this type of ability does help out, having that increased damage against enemies that do have a sync buff. That's pretty good, right? That's going to be providing, again, 50% buff. That's a 220-ish power Dynamax Cannon. That's pretty strong. 230-ish, actually. That's obviously going to be really strong. Obviously not going to be too big of a help in like stadium battles if you're going to be going for precinct clears, but that's not really where this matters because he can clear stadium stages just fine. It's going to be a universal buff. Again, ultimate battles where you're going to be getting synced anyway, and arena stages likewise. So that's nice. He's got Dark Hand Plus, XP Plus, and the Trainer Move, all of which for maxing crit, maxing speed, the Trainer Move reducing sync countdown by 1, raising special attack by 3, applying super effective next, but also lowering his special defense. Not really that great there, especially when they're trying to increase his bulk a la Support X roll, but I mean, it's fine. He's got good self-sufficiency with the special attack and crit buffs, speed buffs for like, gauge management and multiplier activation and whatnot. That's not bad either. For the most part, outside of Legendary Arena stages, you're probably going to want to just bring a character that can buff his speed at the very least, but of course you can also just bring one that can buff all of his stats, you know, i.e. Champion Blue, one of the better supports for him, and obviously just one of the best supports in the game in general. Anyway, he's also got Lucky 7 here, 50% chance to lower enemies' attack, defense, all this stuff when the user's attack move is successful. So random, well, not random, but 50% chance for debuffing all of these stats by 1, that's good. Random debuffs, again, similar to that of like Jacq, as I've stated, like how good it is on him. Similarly good here, but also Leon doesn't have the ability to heal, and also the ability to flinch, and the ability to buff his own stats, like Jacq can buff his, right? Like Jacc's got double dipping. He can buff his stats and debuff enemy stats. Leon does not really have the ability to buff his own defenses, and in fact, he actually actively debuffs them, right? But either way, I mean, still, good debuff ability. It's going to help out his damage with the special defense drops, and also going to be helping out with taking damage via the attack and special attack drops, accuracy, and all that as well does help out too. So the stat debuffs are pretty helpful. It does counter stages like Latios pretty well in terms of legendary arenas, and also any stage that can obviously take debuffs like attack and special attack. So Terrakion doesn't appreciate it, I'm sure, but for the most part, these are good stat debuffs. 50% chance is not that bad for sure. He does also have max damage guard, applying damage guard on using the max move. I mean, that could be good when well placed for sure. Like, you can use the max move to do a ton of damage, but you can also use it to protect yourself from an attack that will do a ton of damage to you back. You know, like a Hyper Beam or a Giga Impact, whatever, something like that that can do a ton of damage and probably one-shot you. Max Damage Guard can save you from that and also do a ton of damage in the process, and that's really strong. Ramming speed as well, applying more damage to his moves when the more his speed is raised. Obviously, that's going to help out, right? Dynamax Cannon having a multiplier on top of its innate power effect of whenever enemies have sync buffs, he's going to be able to do some pretty good Dynamax Cannon damage. More so, it's about the gauge management. Like, if we want to talk about his gauntlet prowess, gauge management's probably one of his bigger things, and also lack of healing, and actively debuffing his defensive stats, oh my god, or special defense stats. But still, outside of that, I don't think he's like a super strong striker. I mean, he can do pretty well. Again, Dynamax Cannon does have very good multipliers. He's got the support EX roll to give himself a sync buff. He's got self-sufficiency. He can do pretty solid, right? He can do some pretty solid damage. Just don't think it's like immensely better than immensely better, or even potentially up to par with other characters of the same role. But again, a character that if you do want to pick up and make work, you definitely can't do that. Especially considering his dupes. He's got Hunter's Instinct. Why Hunter's Instinct of all things? Whatever. The more speed debuffs on the enemy, the greater power of his attacks. So up to 60% multipliers for his Dynamax Cannon. Again, plus that 50% buff. It's going to be doing a lot of damage for sure. He's also got Inertia and 2 Sync nodes. These are his only Sync nuke multipliers, which does hurt him quite a bit. And he also doesn't really have any sync utility. Like, there's no reason to use a sync move other than for damage. So that support EX is literally just there kind of to be there. No enhancement of his damage, which is it does suck, frankly. The EX roll, the support EX is definitely the best EX roll for him, at least in this regard, because Sprint wouldn't help him, Tech wouldn't help him, obviously. Wouldn't really give him much of a reason to use a sync move, but just in base kit, there's not really too much reason to use it. Just use a better character like a Nuker or a support EX, which now he does actually fill that role as well, or like, you know, Arc Suit Lance, who is both a Nuker and an Enhancer, so yeah. He is older, though, so it makes sense, of course. Powerful X3 for an over multiplier, but not really worth picking up. He's got a Turn of Beam power up here, so if you do want to go for some extra max power, you can do that. Also, the fact that max moves hit through a lot of enemy gimmicks could be good, so that is helpful, too. And then that's mostly it, frankly. His dupes are not that crazy. Like, Endurance is something. Max Countdown 1 for Sync Acceleration, I guess, is nice on top of the training move here. But for the most part, not really that great of a grid. It helps out his damage a little bit in his nuking, but his nuking's not really that great anyway. And then 5 out of 5, I mean, he gets max moves, hit 7 stats down 9, guaranteed debuffs. This probably helps in conjunction with Lucky 7, just giving you faster debuffs. That can be nice, but also this would consider you have to use the max move probably earlier on to make better utilization of these debuffs, so just consider that. You may be wasting your max move in terms of damage just to get some debuffs. So it's a give and take there. Trainer move special boost 9, getting special moves next when the trainer uses a move. He's got a ton of those, right? So this can give you some pretty good power behind that like first Dynamax cannon, or of course you can play around it and get increments of special moves next here and there. You can get some pretty good power out of that, so that's something. Again, just however you want to make utilization of it. And then Max Countdown 2, another note of Max Countdown. He's got a lot of Sync Acceleration utility, which is, frankly, I'm surprised he didn't get Sprint EX in the Sprint EX role, but honestly, hey, we'll take support over that, of course. And also Trainer Move BOGO. This helps out with his gauge. This is one of the better things that helps out with his gauge in, again, arena content. But that's the things that I feel like a lot of these buffs that he's getting are more so for Legendary Arenas and less so for other game modes, simply because Support EX just is like a pretty neutral upgrade for him outside of the Legendary Gauntlet. And these grid tiles, again, BOGO, that's got Gauntlet written all over it. Max move stats down, I don't know, honestly. I think this tile doesn't have too much great usage elsewhere. I like the Trainer Move special boost is nice, and the Sync Acceleration is also pretty nice as well. So, Leon, overall, not a bad damage dealer for sure, but definitely replaceable, 100%, and I mean, that's all there is to say. That's honestly all I've really got for Leon. He's very replaceable as a damage dealer, just because of his age and the lack of amazing buffs he got to like really enhance his damage properties. Again, mostly a lot of his buffs are good for the Legendary Arena, which of course is something. Anyway, to finish off, we do have Sygna Suit Silver. How long is this video already? 21 minutes. Ooh boy. These videos are too long, man. I need to stop yapping so much. Anyway, so Sygna Suit Silver. This guy is... I hate his accuracy. Triple Axle, 90 accuracy. I hate it, whatever. Anyway, with full investment, he's got 466 physical attack, 264 defense, 280 special defense, 460 speed, and 787 health. He's got good stats. Really good stats. Again, character that can solo 13 legendary arenas here, talking. But even outside of that, he's pretty good. He's got Triple Axle, which is his main damaging option, which 21, 40, 60, attack's power is increased for each hit. Second attack is twice as powerful as the first attack. Third attack is 3 times as powerful as the first attack. So this is like a 120 power move, pretty much, if you consider the fact landing all of the moves. It's a 3-hit move, but it only hits in succession, so if you miss once, the rest of the attack just does not go through. So that is the worst thing about this, being 90 accuracy. And he has a complete lack of accuracy buffs at 1 out of 5, so you have to run like pinpoint entry as a lucky skill, or really just deal with the accuracy problem. It's actually pretty bad, I will be honest. XP plus for buffing his speed, and then his buddy move Crushing Triple Axle, which also has 90 accuracy, so imagine missing that. It attacks up to 3 times, and the power is, of course, again, same, doubled pretty much for each time it's used. Will double from the first attack and then triple from the first attack, right? It reduces the sync move countdown by 1 for each hit, raises crit by 1 for each hit, and power returns to normal, but you can't use it again anyway. It's a 1-use buddy move. So this is his method of buffing crit, but also his method of getting sync acceleration, which I'm surprised he didn't get Sprint EX roll, but he got support, which is, again, good anyway, so that's fine. He's got his Trainer Move I Won't Leave You, which applies gauge acceleration to the outfield of play, raises attack by 3. So he has full self-sufficiency. Speed buffs, attack buffs, and crit buffs, and some sneak acceleration on top of that. He's got the innate of speed debuffs because he's got Tripping Strike 9, which debuffs enemy speed. So he's able to max out enemy speed debuffs pretty easily because of his 3-hit moves, and that helps out with activating his nuking multipliers. He also has Inertia and Adrenaline 2. Adrenaline 2, on top of having Support EX roll, right, he gets Sync Acceleration, Support EX functionality, and then on top of that also he still has Inertia, so he's got, at 1 out of 5, two 100% Sygna multipliers, as well as Adrenaline 2 off of a Support EX roll. So he's actually got a very valuable nuke, at least at 1 out of 5. Even with, of course, with Zoops, he's got a pretty good one too, because he's got multipliers to do some good damage, and he's got the -2 sync acceleration on top of it. So there is good reason to use his sync move, again, above pretty much most other Support EX characters, just simply for that sync acceleration and the good damage. Just at 1 out of 5 with 1 copy. That's not bad. Definitely not bad at all. And off of a pretty good offensive stat as well, 466 attack, that's really strong. He's going to be doing good damage. The real problem with him is his DPS. Triple Axle's not great. 120 power is fine, but when you're pretty much rolling a coin to actually land all of your damage, it's pretty bad, and it's even worse when considering your buddy move. The buddy move would like to do good damage because this move can hit like up to 240 power or something like that, but you've got to consider that you use it to buff your crit. So if you're like in a legendary arena solo, or if you bring a support that can buff crit for whatever reason, you are relying on this to buff your crit, meaning you're probably using it early on in the battle and you're not really getting a whole lot of power out of it because you're using it, for one, probably without any crit buffs, and for two, to buff your crit. So that kind of sucks. But if you can't play around that, if you can play around that, then you can get some good power out of it. That's just a little bit of a caveat to consider. Anyway, that's mostly Silver at 1 out of 5. He does have a good nuke and speed debuff utility, but outside of that, nothing crazy. The sync acceleration is nice, but overall not really too crazy of a character. Of course, he's going to get better with dupes, right? He's got, at 3 out of 5, he gets Pinpoint Entry 2. Again, helping out that accuracy, because he needs it. Hunter's Instinct for 30% DPS multiplier. Invigorating Hail 5, Heavy Hail 5, Cakewalk as well. These are all of his nuking and damaging related options, plus the 2 sync nodes here, right? Invigorating Hail for a 50% multiplier, again, combined with a character like Eriott, for example, who can apply Hail and be a good partner for Silver. She's obviously special while he is physical, but that doesn't really matter too much considering he benefits off of her anyway. Also because she can debuff speed, so they do work with each other there. They can activate each other's multipliers relatively well. So the multipliers there for Eriott being on the team is not bad. And also another note of Cakewalk. That's pretty much what his NA is Cakewalk. So he's got 350% pretty much in total nuking multipliers, meaning he's got a very, very strong sync nuke. Again, off of a good offensive stat, his sync nuke is really good. Now, will you use him over someone like Champion Red? Well, I mean, if you want a better single target nuke, sure. But if you want overall everything else better, probably not. But that's not really the point. It's the Silver's got good debuff. He's got solid debuffs, a good nuke, a lot of sync acceleration, and that's one of the biggest reasons to utilize him, right? You do really want those accuracy buffs, though, or some way to mitigate his accuracy issues with both of his moves, because I'm telling you, it does not seem 90% accuracy does not seem that bad. It's that bad. When you're trying to land this move consistently, it's that bad. He's also got Triple Axle Restoring Strike for a 20% chance to restore HP, and of course it can activate multiple times, so you can work around with it. Not bad at all, frankly. He's also got Mighty Rush for increasing physical moves next by 1 after using the sync move. Not that great. Same thing with Super Command 9, also not really that great. I mean, of course, any maybe Ice Week content, maybe Nita's Ultimate Battle, you can make better utilization of the Super Command, but for the most part, not really too valuable nodes, I would say. He does also get Slippery on XP Plus for up to +2 evasion, or of course if you get your speed debuffed, then you can keep going after it alongside picking up 6 speed NPR, but for the most part, I wouldn't rely on this for your evasion buffs. I would rely on Evasive Strike if you're willing to invest that high. Evasive Strike at 5 out of 5? No, 4 out of 5. Okay, actually that's pretty good. At 4 out of 5, he gets Evasive Strike, buffing evasion. This is where his real gauntlet stuff comes in. Healing plus dodge, right? That's really what he's got. Healing plus dodge plus a good nuke. That's really what you're working off of with this guy. At 4 out of 5, he also gains Punishing Strike 4, which is really solid for his damage. You're able to debuff enemy defense faster. Getting those stat debuffs is very, very good. Those defensive debuffs for his damage. It's going to be pretty helpful. Again, on top of his good nuking multipliers, he's going to be able to do even more damage with his own self-sufficiency in debuffing defense. So he's got a really good nuke. Really good nuke and really good damage enhancement. Other than that, I wouldn't say his 3 out of 5 tiles are that crazy. I mean, maybe Burst In if you want to be able to land crits on Triple Axle, if you want to be able to, again, do some good damage with that, or whatever attack you use first. Again, if you're trying to use Triple Axle to actually buff his crit, then having Burst In would be good, because that move will then be able to land a crit. Also, it can only be activated when his HP is full. I want to keep that in mind, so having this activated pretty much universally is going to be pretty hard. I mean, again, outside of the first turn of battle, so just consider that when using this guy. I really want to make that known. Anyway, this is where a lot of his great utility is. He's got evasion buffs, he's got healing, and he's got a great nuke on top of all of that. So that's where a lot of his gauntlet stuff comes in. But of course, even outside of the gauntlet, for any stage, you've got a very, very strong nuking character that can also debuff defense to enhance team damage, and debuff speed for his own multiplier activation, and potentially other characters' multiplier activation. And then at 5 out of 5, soften up 1 for guaranteed crits on the sync move. That's fine. Nothing crazy, but it's fine. An Unfortunate Strike, this is a lot better, right? He gets accuracy and defensive buff. He gets the debuffs of all kind, right? He gets these random debuffs when attacking the enemy now, and again, this helps out more with his Legendary Arena stuff because he's able to debuff accuracy to, again, have enemies miss him, attack stats so that he takes a lot less damage off of his already pretty solid defensive stats, and again, like defenses or evasion if you want to make the attack easier to land so you don't have to run pinpoint entry. That also does work too. So again, this is why this character's got this many legendary arena solos. It's because of his big dodge utility plus his debuffs, right? Debuff, dodge, and heal, right? He doesn't have flinches, but he clearly doesn't need them, and that's why a lot of his solos are with such high investment. 5 out of 5, 5 out of 5, 5 out of 5, 4 out of 5, 4 out of 5, 5 out of 5, 5 out of 5, 4 out of 5, right? A lot of his debuffs, or a lot of his good utility comes from that evasion, plus that healing, plus those debuffs. So, a character that, again, like Jacq, again, this is why I say this banner is good for the Gauntlet, is because these two characters are really good for the Legendary Gauntlet with higher investment. Jacq really wants 3 out of 5, Silver really wants at least 4 out of 5 for a lot of his stuff, which, it does help. And Leon, I mean, Leon's, like, fine. Literally, I mean, look at them pecs. But he's mostly just, like, fine, honestly. Definitely, like, the character in the banner that's probably the least valuable to pick up, but not a bad character for sure. Like, if you want to make him work, you definitely can. It's like, again, I showcased Drasna. He'll be better than Drasna, no doubt about that. But point is that you can really make him work if you really want to. And he's not, like, that terrible where you're struggling to make him work, for sure. So yeah, overall, I mean, that's my thoughts about this banner. It's, like, super valuable to go for. If you're a Gauntlet player, yes. Like, it really can be that valuable. These two characters are really, really good for it, and picking up Leon's not, like, terrible anyway. I mean, he's got pretty good gauge efficiency. That's something, at least with investment, right? With full dupes, Leon's got good gauge efficiency, and that's probably something good to consider for, like, a Legendary Arena type content. But outside of that, I don't think the banner is that valuable. Jacq and Silver are good nukers, and Silver's got good damage. It's pretty solid damage potential, and Jacc's got a very good nuclear buddy move, and Leon's, of course, a good striker. But I wouldn't say that they are, like, the top of their class or anything like that. No pun intended with Jacq being a teacher, but, like, they're not top tier in any of their roles in terms of being able to work in other game modes outside of the arenas, but they can still be good. Like, Silver's going to cover, like, Nita's ultimate battle pretty well with the appropriate partners. Jacq could be pretty good as well. Leon, again, he covers a lot of strike-based content decently well, so that's fine. But yeah, whatever. That's my thought about the banner. I'll see you all later. I hope you all enjoyed. Oh boy, I got 3 of these to record. I hope I'm a little more coherent for the rest of them, because I can tell I was mostly losing my thoughts in here. Oh well, it's fine. Whatever. I'll see you all later.